Okay, now I can hear you.
All right. So my name is Kristin Hansen. I am the instructional designer here at CTE. And for those of you that have not been if this is your first time at a workshop, we run these a couple times a semester. And we've had everything from AI to tackling the grade book, which is everybody's bane of existence. And now we are looking to branch out into how we can implement more active learning strategies in the classroom. So how many of you have had students where you tell them, you drill them into them this information, and then by the time the finals come, they're like, well, I don't remember any of that. Well, yeah, it's very common. And a lot of that is due to they have not, not enough active learning has gone into the methods in order to have them retain most of the information. So how many of you had the chance to take the poll?
Oh, this poll on this?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, there's like a little poll, and you just zoom in and select which. So we're going to go on the next one. So in 2001, MIT, they decided to switch out in their intro physics auditorium classroom, which is those, the stadium seating. They decided to take the intro physics to another room where they had tables similar to these. So what do you think happened? What do you think was the end result?
More kids did better.
You think that did better?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Better student outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. Failure rate decreased by 50%. So the students who actually, the rate of students receiving an F, so think about it, there's like 200 students in there. And by 50%, the intro to physics failure rate decreased just by putting them at those tables instead of just sitting like you're in a stadium. So it's not a small number. So and it's definitely something to look at.
Did they keep the class size?
They kept the. So what they did was they kept the class size, because it was a big room. It was still a pretty large room, and they kept the, but it was just in tables. So they converted one of their old lab rooms, took out the lab kiosk and put in the tables, and the students actually did a lot better. So sometimes, and that goes to show, when you take into account these learning styles, when you take how everybody takes in information, some people don't even learn verbally, so, and that's a whole different thing. So when you take that into account, you start to kind of see how it's, academic success in a given course is a lot more reachable.
Did they look into anything else? Because when you're seated in an auditorium, it's so easy to become anonymous, to do your calculus homework during the lecture, to be on your phone, whatever. And if you're seated at a table, even though it's a large group, it's easier to spot that you're on the phone or doing something else.
Well, and you also have your peers. Your peers kind of being as the unintended monitors of your behavior. So if you're being disengaged, you kind of feel there's more of a spotlight on you, so you're less anonymous. And then you have your fellow students judging you. So that is also the main variable, but it's not it's not the perception of the audience, although that is a big factor. It's the collaborative factor is the biggest variable in the success. So, and especially in an intense course like physics, where when you're doing stuff like on your own, you're like, did I get this right? 20 minutes after doing the equation, the giant word problem, did I get this right? How do I know it's correct? But this way you're able to kind of like check yourself amongst your peers, and I think that is one of the biggest indicators. So, all right. So the objectives. We're going to talk about exactly how does one define active learning, identify active learning strategies, and we can look into it. We all use Blackboard Ultra for if you were teaching online. So we're going to look at some tools in Ultra that can kind of elevate that. Adapting existing lesson plans and course material in general. And how do we utilize the resources that we have? So how do we work with what we have in order to support active learning? So your standard like roto memorization, the standard lecture, the test is mainly from the lecture notes, that kind of stuff, is classified as passive learning. Now, has nothing to do with the quality of instruction. Those lectures, there's some students that's their cup of tea, that's how they learn. However, when it comes to retaining the material in the long term, the retention rates are fairly low, about 10% maybe on a good day. If you look at the beginning of the course to the end of the course, and when they incorporate more active learning, that kind of grows. So the thing is, where a lot of what they struggle with is, especially in a theory-heavy class, they struggle with how do we apply this to the real world applications. How do we your standard, well, what am I supposed to do with this information? Like, where am I ever going to use this? Where am I ever going to use differential equations? Even if I'm an engineer, I have software that I could just plug in data. Why do I have to do, but you also need to kind of have a good amount of knowledge of the concepts in order to be able to successfully apply it. So when it comes to critical thinking and problem solving, the passive learning approach doesn't really check those boxes. You kind of need to have that, instead of just writing a research paper, and we're going to get into this, you can maybe incorporate a more investigative approach, or have it be peer reviewed throughout the process, and we'll explore that more in detail. So what is active learning? What does it look like? Well, the term was first coined in 1991. And these were educational researchers, Charles C. Bonwell and James Hansen. And basically it says anything that involves students in doing things and thinking about the things that they're doing. So what does that mean? Well, it's a process where you're taking in what you're learning, and you're learning how to directly apply it, whether it's in your day-to-day life, your immediate environment, or able to kind of use that and being able to branch out and think critically on whether it's related topics, whether it's adjacent fields of knowledge. So you take that information, and you're able, the information doesn't just like stay there, as just raw data. You're able to kind of take that and think about it in different areas, in different parts of different fields of knowledge. comprised of how do we identify it? So instead of focusing on the, on just the assessments and the lesson plan itself, it focuses on the learner. So the students are the main goal in this one. And a critical component is critical thinking. And with critical thinking, what we just brushed up on, being able to kind of take that information and think about it in a more complex manner. And collaboration and interaction. So we kind of saw what happened with the MIT restructuring of the classroom. So promoting the collaboration and interaction, that is key in the students being able to, it's that perpetual feedback. It's that constant, and think about it this way. People learn, everybody learns differently. And when you're exposed to different learning styles, that is also a very valuable learning experience. Because you're like, oh, how many times have we all found ourselves saying, I never thought of it that way. I never thought to do it this way. And that's where, you kind of gain that inspiration from your peers. So why does it matter? Why is active learning important? Well, it's important for both. It benefits both faculty and the student. The students are able to do a deep dive into concepts, able to have a more well-rounded, instead of just regurgitating the information. They're able to basically, how people say you kind of have a good understanding of something if you're able to explain it, like the audience is 5, in simpler terms. So they're able to explain it in a casual context in simple terms. That's where they can break down those critical concepts. And enhancing their problem solving, their critical thinking skills, they're able to take that information, and with the shift in how knowledge is assessed. So whether it's doing a complex problem solving group work, or working on a project where instead of just researching theories of early childhood development, you actually go and observe kids playing, or whatever your assignment is. The more success students see, they're more motivated they are, and the different approach also drives engagement. And most importantly of all, the retention and recall, to where even when the class is over, they're much more likely to remember this. Faculty, we have students are happier, makes your job easier. And, especially when they tend to succeed in the course. And all around, makes your job more rewarding. And when you see something that, you've tried something and it works, it kind of snowballs that inspiration, creates those opportunities to kind of think outside the box, to use different approaches, so that's where faculty also get that motivation. And here we're just gonna go through the discussion-based strategies. You got how many of you have done these in your course? So you've done the think, pair, share. So what have you? What are some good and bad that you've seen with these? And it could be any of them. Yeah.
I would say for me, for the think, pair, share, sometimes I have to slow them down a little bit and make sure they do the think portion on their own first, because some of them are having so much fun talking to their classmates, so they just jump right to that part. But I really want them to try to engage with on their own first and wrestle with it a little bit before they put their heads together. So just kind of keep them calm for a minute or two.
Yeah, so kind of adding a little bit of an incremental, like a timing So it's like, okay, first 15 minutes, it's you, then you pair it, and then show us what you learned. Anybody? Yeah.
I just started doing something a long time ago. One of my students was the son of one of the deans, and he said, "I don't care about failing any tests, you know." But I was having them do the rote thing to me, you know, the parts of the animal they were looking at. He says, "But when I have to come up and say them to you personally, I really care whether I get them right." Okay, so then many years later, I'm teaching a different course, and it's packed. There's just no room in the course because there's 20 sections and we all have to take the same final. Okay, so I found that writing down the answers to the pictures there, it did nothing. Okay, so I said, well, you're going to say the parts to me, and you either get a 0 or you get both ones. And if you miss one, you got to go back and do it again. So the kids started teaching each other. And then this last semester, somebody said, I can't do this. And one of the other ladies said, look, I do them 4 at a time. You know, maybe there's a list of 20 things to learn. And she says, I don't try to learn all 20 at one time. I learn 4. My partner quizzes me. I learn another 4. And, you know, and so then, you know, that helped the other kids.
So chunking it into digestible
yeah, but
segments.
I mean, it wasn't my suggestion.
Yeah.
It was from a different, even a different group.
Yeah. So, and that goes to show, like, when they talk, you know, they kind of exchange, you know, different strategies and
Yeah,
ideas.
this is how I do it, and
Yeah.
I do case studies a lot,
Yeah.
but health
What do you
career,
teach?
health career ophthalmology. So I do case studies. They're actually from the American Academy of Ophthalmology, and I start them the first semester. And I take something a little basic like pink eye, and they have to write down, you know, what their symptoms might be, what they might see under this, you know, microscope, what their complaints might be, what medication they might have to use, and they just build and build and build. So, because you're right, well, everybody knows this, but you can teach them something, but if they don't know how to apply it when they get out and get employed, what's the point?
Yeah.
So they love the case studies, and I do like, I don't like them because it takes me a long time, but to grade them, but I give them a lot of feedback. So the next time I give one, hopefully they've learned from that.
And you start off with the simple stuff, so that way you can kind of
And then
get their
as they
feet wet.
learn more, then they can apply more.
Yeah. Good. My favorite thing was always the debates. I used to teach, as a grad assistant, I used to teach sociology, so we had a lot of those.
Can I ask, is it possible to work the debate format into something that's more like factual?
Yeah, like finite.
Yeah,
Finite
more
answer.
finite.
Like, how do you?
I think definitely, especially with, for example, technology and benefits to society. You know, we can have a debate about that. We can have I'm sure, for example, in physics, you know, we can discuss, well, nuclear energy, you know, how pros and cons, you know, how is it, where, if it goes terribly wrong, you know, well, them's the breaks, but, you know, but I think you can definitely do it with certain, you have more options, I think, in certain areas than others, but I think you can do it with any field, especially you would take, let's say, a hot button issue within that field, or even with medicine, like medical ethics is a great example.
You could take a controversial image.
Yeah.
And have debates on what they thought it was.
Yeah.
That's a good.
you can even put depending on, you can put those questions inside your tests. If you have multiple choice, and then you put, because I asked like, when does life begin?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's not going to be a right or wrong answer. You have to justify your opinion. So then they have to bring in, it could be their religious views or the scientific, or.
It's kind of like the position paper to where there's no right or wrong answer. Or, you have to, it's about how strong your argument is.
Yeah.
And it can even, because even if it's a big misconception is, well, you can't just state your opinion. Well, you can't just state your opinion, but it has to be informed. Yeah, your position has to be informed. What about problem solving? So, these are a little, these can definitely be more into the hard science. So whether it's, or even medical, like simulations with surgery, or having role playing, one plays the nurse or the doctor, one plays the patient, and case studies. Case studies can be applied with any field, because there's always been, as long as there's research that there's publications, you can do case studies with any of them. How many of you have used any of these?
All of them.
Yeah.
Well, it's I don't know, I can't speak for Jeff, but I find it very easy to do all of, like, in lab, because it's a health career.
Yeah.
So we always are simulating something, we're always role playing, like one is the tech, one's the patient. I'll say, okay, everybody, like today, like, okay, everybody's got an esotropia, which is the eye turns in. What would your vision be? What would the pressure be in, like, going through the exam, like figuring out what that patient would actually have or experience, so.
And it's kind of like the closest you can get before clinicals, the closest you can get to the hospital within the classroom.
Kristin, the problem with some of this, like, some courses are so full, and there's material you have to cover, so that even though you would like to do some of these things, they take maybe more time, and you don't have their flexibility. Like, we have a departmental final, so what?
Well, active learning actually can help with that, because you can do with the collaborative based approach. You can actually take similar topics and present them and each person in the group can basically talk about that topic, and kind of you can incorporate that into like a bigger project. So make each member, like their de facto expert in a related topics, and then have them, so they're basically like, teaching their fellow students. So that way they still get the information, they have the hands-on, but you've kind of covered like all those bases where it would have taken several weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you teach in anatomy?
Yeah, it's the 101 course.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So speaking of collaborative, so I think we've all done these. We've all had to do to have our students do group projects, any kind of like puzzle-based or peer teaching, team-based, any kind of team-based learning. So they're pretty self-explanatory. Have you seen any of these that work much better than than the other on the list? No.
I'm not a fan of group projects.
Mm-hmm.
There's always one that's the leader, and then there's always one slacker.
Yep. There's always that one, and there's always the one that does all the work.
Yes.
And then everybody else is, it's kind of like the ducks following them up.
Yeah, it's not fair that, one person's getting, earned the grade and the other are just riding their tails, or not.
I had one that did, I said, the group, they were doing some lab activity, like, jumping around and getting their heart rates and stuff like. And I said, I haven't seen you, I'm the note taker. I said, nah.
Well,
I don't
then.
think so. I'm the note taker, and then she's writing the answers down, and then they all copy her. I said, no, I don't think so.
Oh, they always try to find like the
Yeah.
path of least resistance,
Yeah.
no matter what you give them.
And when your whole room is off doing in separate activities, it's hard to catch them, I almost had an.
Because even from a distance, like if they're talking, you're like, are they making plans for the weekend, or are they talking about what they're actually should be talking about?
Or same thing when you let them use a computer in class, because, and you tell them, you can't do other things, and if you catch it, you lose the privilege of using this. Okay, well, by the time you get back to where they are, of course, they're on the right stuff. You could see them laughing, and nobody laughs at my lecture,
You don't know what they're doing behind the computer.
Yeah. That's a hard problem to solve, because they're.
Yeah, because unless you have like a lockdown browser, but that's not,
which
that's
you don't
only
have.
there for the, for the test, like you can't,
Yeah.
Yeah, and sadly, like that's the only way to kind of monitor that is if you're facing behind them and you're lecturing. So.
Yeah, and then they can't see the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Turn their desks, or you can have the whiteboard with the have your laptop there, and you can, if you're doing slides, you can adjust the slides from the back, so that way their screens are in full view of you, and that's also another.
You could do AirPlay with Apple.
Yep.
But,
like AirDrop it.
Yeah.
So these, unless they're kind of writing heavy ones, they're not too common outside of that. But you can have concept maps. How many of you have done concept map? Yeah. Believe it or not, I did it for the first time in grad school. But it was actually very helpful. It was for a grant writing project, and it was just a concept map where she made us do that first before we got down to writing. So it was actually pretty helpful.
I was reading something on the minute papers where you give them a choice. Write down what you learned today. Write down how you think you could use what we talked about today, or tell me the worst thing that you didn't understand.
Yeah.
And that way you can get kind of, they don't have to tell you, oh, it was wonderful when you talked about the heart or something.
Yeah.
This way they can say, I didn't understand the path of blood. Or they could say, I'm interested in heart transplants. Can we talk about that? So those minute papers at the end, they know something's going to come up. So I think if they know that you do this sometimes, they might pay more attention, because otherwise they're not going to know what to write at the end.
Exactly. Of it. Yeah. Yeah, and with those, it's it kind of helps them like bring back the material, but at the same time, they won't know what they don't know, unless until they're asked to think about it.
Yeah.
Because, how many times have we gone like overconfident in a test? You're like, oh yeah, it can't be that bad. Like I know everything, and then like, oh, I did not know this. What is this? So that one, that would definitely be, and it's that kind of perpetual feedback. And if you did it via like a survey in Blackboard, you can download that data, and you can any program where you visualize the data, and you can have like a good clear picture of what material are they struggling with, what material they're most interested in. So that'll be like a fun visualization project to do. Okay, so how many of you teach face-to-face? Okay, so for face-to-face, these are typically like the main approaches, like right off the bat, like these in class, if you have, let's say, oh, we're going to take astronomy and we're going to walk down to the Space Center, for, have like a hands-on, whether it's like a gallery walk or like field trips and, or rotating stations. So similar to what I propose with each is on a topic, you can have rotating stations where, every 15 minutes, the group goes to another station and they learn about the given subject. Gamifications. Gamification is a huge one, and it's actually one of the most positively responded to in terms of active learning strategies. Everybody loves to hoop. And simulations, I know I had to do, when I was with Purdue, I had to do build a simulation e-learning module for the School of Nursing, where they were basically checking patient vitals, and it was like a CPR involved. It was one of those. For an online class, the approach is a little bit different, but you can still incorporate a lot of the face-to-face things like peer review, online discussions, and we're going to go into how to kind of elevate those online discussions, so that way, because that also allows some students to just coast by, and that's why we have reply to one of your peers, or reply to at least two of your peers, at least 100 words, or so that way they're like, oh yeah, I agree, good job. And that's their reply. It's like interactive quizzes with immediate feedback, because they can actually learn, as they go. Instead of, I wonder how I did on that, and then the anxiety compounds, and that interferes with them, kind of with their momentum within the course. So, all right, and hybrid courses. You can flip your classroom, have them do something, or instead of today in class we're going to watch a movie, have them watch the movie or watch this YouTube link and then come to class ready to discuss, which is also a good approach if you're strapped for time with regards to material. So if you have, you're like, there's not enough time to cover the material, that's one of the ways you can chip away at that. Blended discussions, you can have them be online and in person, like start an online discussion, have them collaborate, then introduce something, part two of it, and then have them do it in class. That would be also another one. Collaborative projects and class presentations, that's pretty streamlined, which and that's becoming very common with our 8-week courses. So the one, especially the ones where their final is a project that they have to present, the online collaborative projects, and then they do the Blackboard Collaborate webcam, and then they present their stuff. So what are some ways we can do this? So we don't need to reinvent the wheel like overnight. You can start kind of cherry picking one or two strategies and approaches. So if you can kind of see what material you're teaching, what are the resources that are available, what kind of approach would help. For example, if you're teaching early childhood, that would the field experience, kind of research would be a lot more feasible than if you're doing like engineering technology, in terms of like observing behavior. And so depending on what you're teaching, you can take, and how you teach it and what you've seen that works, you could take that and say, well, I'm going to up the ante a little bit with this one, kind of still keep the main approach, but kind of tweak it to have it be more interactive, more engaging. Or if you find something where you haven't gotten much engagement, or where you feel like, the students just fall asleep in class, when you talk about certain things. So that's one thing, so there's different ways to tackle it. Regardless of how you choose to, got to make sure that the learning objectives and the activities are in alignment, because, if we're doing something like, why is it, if it's not part of the main learning objectives, there's it kind of is no point. And also the activities, if they're not aligned with the learning objectives, it might kind of deviate off topic too much. So clear instructions and expectations, especially if you're implementing something new, you want to make sure that students know what the parameters are, what the expectations are, what are the goals. If, let's say, if you're introducing it for the first time, especially, and then be consistent with feedback. So offering them, that support, that feedback, that, like what they, even in online courses, if you you can do immediate feedback after a quiz, and after the grades are posted. You can even do a video feedback in Blackboard. So, all right. So this is basically your worksheet. So if you turn that, we can talk about what are some ways, because, okay, we've talked about like the different strategies and stuff, but, what are some ways? So let's say right now we have, they have an exam, and, you're like, you kind of want to vary it a little bit than the standard multiple choice. So the things that are available in Ultra, the more open-ended questions, the formula-based questions are also there. You can propose a problem-solving scenario as part of an open-ended question, and case study analysis. So even like instead of it just being multiple choice tests, you can have the exam be a case study analysis. And same with written assignments. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I tried something this last semester,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully it worked, although I was pretty skeptical. Okay, so I was giving in-class tests, and and I tend to ask questions where I put answers in that are meant to distract them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so the grades are not maybe what you want. So then I got to some hard topics, and I said, I'm going to give them a take-home test. Same format. And I thought, are they going to learn this? Are they going to cheat? Are they going to come, So I just give them, and of course they did well. So my really test was like, since we have a department exam, to see how they did on the department. Because out of 8 tests, I think 3 or 4 of them were take-home tests.
Mm-hmm.
So they could bring their grades up, but they were looking up the answers,
Mm-hmm.
which I told them that, I wanted them to, because I figured if you don't get it in class, maybe you can get it if you're responsible. You see the question there. And then after that, I said, you can get extra credit if you correct your test. Mm-hmm. So you write the question, and you write what the correct answer and say why you got it wrong. And they did really well on the final. So I think at least for my situation, giving a take-home test, it kind of raised morale a little bit. And one girl said at the end, she says, the final was so easy because the answers in there were obviously wrong, and yours were so tricky. So, and it's just good because now you know how to take those kind of tests.
Yeah, what I found helpful, because I've had take-home tests before. What I've actually found helpful was you kind of feel like as you're taking the test, you're also studying.
Yeah.
So when you have to, I think when you have to like physically go through your textbook and find the answer, I think it actually kind of clicks a little, clicks a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
maybe
'cause
some of the
you-
kids cheated, but
Mhm.
a lot of them seem to learn the material.
Yeah. But, with take homes though, it's, because when you're reading the answer, it's not just, you're reading it in, you kind of have to read the whole paragraph
Yeah.
in order to find the answer. So that kind of approach where you're kind of studying for the test that you're currently taking, and it's simultaneous. So
But
for some students, that does help.
what about though with AI? See, now with AI, they
Mhm.
don't even need to go into their book. They can just type the questions in and get the answers.
And yeah.
And they might not
unfortunately-
even learn it. They might not even hardly read it.
Mhm.
Well, they don't even have to. They can just
Yeah.
copy and paste it and they don't even
Yeah.
know what the answer was.
Yeah. So,
I know.
I mean, so
And-
now I'm rethinking whether it's gonna be valuable.
Mhm. Are they open-ended? Are they multiple choice or open-ended?
Both.
I don't
I
do
give,
any open-ended anymore because of that.
But
Well,
there is a way
Wait.
to see, to kind of detect it. You can use Grammarly to detect, because when you copy and paste something, Grammarly, the metadata from from an AI source, so like ChatGPT, Gemini, the metadata is still there. If they copied it from there directly to to their assignment. And if you have Grammarly can detect the metadata and tell you that it's
but you
AI.
can't do that on a multiple choice.
Well,
My
yeah.
tests are mostly multiple choice, and then I throw in, 3, 4.
Now, what kind, like your parameters for academic integrity, is it basically just using the textbook and not Google, or?
No, I didn't restrict it, but that's before I became more familiar with the AI. I mean, if you go on a computer and you look it up and it was the regular stuff, then you have to read the little articles that the information is in. But with AI, they will answer the questions directly because I've used it myself.
Yeah, and a lot of people now, they said that they use it for like Google instead of Googling stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's more direct.
Yeah, it gives you the answer. So,
Very scary.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
It is scary.
Yes.
Now, I believe Turnitin has AI detection. Now, Safe Assign, it does not. But the thing with AI detection, that sometimes it does take because AI crowdsources a lot of input from
Everywhere.
Yeah, basically. So it basically just data mines everything that everybody has ever published, and anything that, anything from like Wikipedia to academic journals. And sometimes when they say something is written by AI, it could just be, from the source. And it depends on how they phrase their question. It depends on the AI tool that was used and how they generated it. And the main limitation for AI detection is there is no really like open source option for it. It's all paid for, paid software, and it's like stupid expensive. So, but there are ways to tell. So the voice of the student. If AI uses a lot of repetition, a lot of just like generic sounding, because like right now, even if I'm looking up something on Reddit, if somebody posted something, I'm like, that just reeks of AI, and it's like, look at my business plan, and it's like, yeah, you generated it with AI. There's no way you could have typed all that, and so there's kind of like, there's ways, and I think we'll get better at it. Right now, I think because it's so early, it's still in its like early stages. but it's moving very fast, and that's also very scary
No.
because can we keep up? So, but yeah, it's I mean, and it's also there's a lot of good to come out of it too. It can definitely bridge the information gap. People who would not have access to some information, they can use it, or if they don't have the time, or if they don't have, or let's say, with so many articles, news articles being behind a paywall now, they can use it to. So I think for like quick information, or verifying something, it's good, but the drawback is you have students generating entire essays.
Do you think that if they look up the answers in something AI, like, Gemini or something, do you think they're going to learn it the same way as if they read the paragraph in their book? Or what's your opinion on that?
So I think if they actually took the time to read it the same way they would read the paragraph in the book,
You think they would learn?
Yeah, unless I know some people tend to like to have the turning the page, like the sensation of turning the page, kind of being that kind of opening up,
Yeah.
like that information gate for them, but because they're like, okay, it's study time now, I have to read something, my brain has to receive it. So, but I think with digital natives, it's not as drastic. So as long as they're able to digest that data and into like applicable, because you can even when it provides the information, you can even tell AI, can you explain it to me like I'm 5, and it will.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So what it is, it's 2 ways. So it's conversational. So when you open up a chat in AI, it retains the
Question.
yeah. So it kind of remembers what you were talking about, and it can respond back and forth to you with that. Yeah, it's a great tool, but it can definitely be used for nefarious purposes. And it could make some people more lazy, but it could also give that opportunity, for knowledge about some. So yeah, this is basically verbatim from your worksheet. So these are just some strategies, how we can directly implement active learning. So for class discussions, it's we want to make sure that you can reply to 2 of your peers in order to be more active in discussion, to ensure that you're reading people's posts and responding accordingly. But if you wanted to kind of enhance that, what about prompts that apply to real world situations, or have them create, have them read a case, read a case study, and then then like judge it or respond to it. Or if, let's say you're teaching an ethics class, hey, read this research study and tell me what ethical violations were done. See if you can detect any ethical violations, because that helps them think like in an investigative and critical manner. For presentations, instead of having like, this is my presentation, like this is why I'm doing this, this is my hypothesis, these are my findings, you can have them do interactive elements. So if, let's say, somebody is presenting something on the volcano, have, instead of a presentation on a volcano, have everybody make a volcano, just and so interactive elements, it would be more, and then have like a post-presentation questionnaire, like what did you learn? What was your favorite part of the presentation? And group projects, everyone's favorite, right? We can do open-ended projects that kind of allow the students to choose and also approach it in a creative manner. Field research, which I found to be very helpful in kind of helping people grasp that concept. Deep dive investigative projects and kind of peer, like partner presentations and peer feedback. So when students receive feedback from their peers, they feel a lot more on the spot. It's actually been a social experiment. Because kids want to be liked by their peers, kind of even like college students, they want to be accepted by their peers, so if they don't want their peers to think that they're, bad students or that they're slipping, or so it kind of keeps them on their toes. So so one way we can assess them is observing the engagement. And, well, are they talking about the topic? Are they talking about what's relevant, or are they gossiping? There's a self-assessment, where, well, how do you think you did? And then have their peers assess them, have them, do a self-evaluation, and then comparing the notes. Pre and post tests, what we briefly talked about. Course evaluations. How many of you do course evaluations at the end of the semester?
You know what? Yeah. On the new Blackboard Ultra, they don't have surveys anymore.
No, they don't.
It's very annoying.
Yeah.
The Rickert scale.
Mm-hmm.
So no,
I think the closest thing is like formative assessment and a quiz without grade, but like don't grade it, kind of.
Yeah, I just do a test. Everything's worth 0. Every question is right.
Yeah.
It's sort of a pain, but
they took
like
away a lot from took away my HTML toggle.
Yeah, but I do. I tell the students I really care. Like, I want to know what was a waste of their time, what really helped them. And they're pretty honest. Yeah, it's a good way for, when you look at like the grade book and what they liked and didn't like, and, like, okay, well, they didn't like this test, and, they didn't really do well on it either, so maybe. Yeah, scrap that. Yeah. All right. So, there's no debate that, students tend to learn a lot better when there's a more active approach. There's all the strategies that we've discussed today, can be directly implemented. And when I was like researching and trying to think of, what are the different strategies and approaches, like what can we do? Thought about like what I've used in the past, like what my teachers have used, or how well like my class has responded, and so I kind of did all that with that in mind, and be like, well, I'm going to narrow it down to what we can do. We can directly do an Ultra. So with the Ultra Collaborate, room, there's a lot more the pathways to basically doing what you can do in person is a lot more mirrored than it was with Learn. So, reminder, we can gradually start incorporating. So you can test 1 or 2 and see how it works. And if it doesn't, we don't do that again. All right, so any questions? Any questions? I did want to share something.
Yeah.
Did anybody watch that Monday Morning Mentor yesterday that was sent by CTE?
Oh, yeah.
Was it yesterday? Have you seen
it-
that one?
Monday.
It was Monday.
Yeah.
I watched it Monday when I was
Mhm.
done. And it was all about turning everything into games.
Mhm.
And so so I have like an assignments page for like a weekly module, and there's notes on there. There's, what else is on there? A narrated PowerPoint and a regular PowerPoint. And then I always do a video. I always do usually an extra help where I just type things out. There's different pictures, just give a little extra assistance, and then there's assignments.
Mhm.
They never do the extra help, and they never watch the video. And every week I show them, I'm like, oh, look. And then, I'll throw a candy bar or something to the like one person who opened the video. So I was thinking, I'm like, how can I get these fools to start watching? Because it takes a lot of extra work
Mhm.
to do the extra help and find the right video. So I did a scavenger hunt
There you go.
in my course. And anywhere you see like this little picture of a scavenger hunt icon, you can open it up, and like one of them was worth 5 points on the midterm.
Mhm.
And I think one of them was doing Quizlet flashcards. And another one was a case study assignment, like this person has this, what would this, and this be? And what extra diagnostic test would you do? So I told them about it today, and I'm like, so I did the scavenger hunt. There's 4 of them in this blackboard. And they were like all like giggling, like they were like excited, I think.
Mhm.
Or at least I'm hoping that they were excited. I don't know if they were like laughing and be like, because they thought I was crazy, or if they were like legit, excited about
Or
it.
just didn't
So,
know what to expect,
I
Yeah.
think all you have to do is mention the word extra credit, and they get,
it's 20 points of extra
Yeah,
credit. I mean,
yeah.
it's a lot.
Oh, yeah. That's.
But if it gets them to open up an extra help page, and actually, because it's all the way at the bottom,
Mhm.
and then once the extra help was done, it was like, it's like down.
Mhm.
So you would have to actually scroll all the way down, read everything, and then you might see like the little icon of the scavenger hunt people with the microscope or with the magnifying glass. So I'll keep everybody posted, but I'm hoping it will get them to utilize some of the extra stuff I put on there.
That's a clever approach, though.
Well, I got it from that
Yeah.
guy. It was really, like, some of the ideas he had were really cool.
Mhm. So yeah, any other questions? All right, we're at, what's it? It's 4:04 now, so, oh yeah, yep, we've already been an hour. All right, well, thank you so much for coming by. Do you guys have any questions for me? Anything you needed me to clarify? And if not now, you can always, you know me, you can always shoot me an email, and, I'll be happy to discuss anything, so.
So thank you.
You're welcome. The worksheet, that's yours to keep, so
Okay.
you can use it as a reference to, if you want to try something new in your course.
Where to put your scavenger hunt
Um,
symbols in.
I put them, right at the top, right after it says start course here.
Mhm.
I put in big bold letters, alert, alert. And then I wrote, this course has a scavenger hunt, or I've made this course into a scavenger hunt. Look for 4 of these icons placed anywhere and follow the directions.
No, but I mean,
So